something about this bike that makes me feel bad to the bone. Riding this bike is super easy. First I gotta turn on the battery, turn on the power. I'm gonna crank it up to 5 and hit the road. Now we're gonna ride around town a little bit and see how this thing handles. Today I have the Engwe M20 all-terrain electric bicycle. This electric bicycle has a 1,000 watt rear hub motor. It's got a peak of 1,000 watts, but it's rated as a 750 watt motor. This bicycle also has front and rear headlights. The front headlight has a high beam, which gives it really good visibility at night. The tail light also acts as a brake light, and if you have the headlight on in night mode, it will give you a running light stop light, and it's also super bright. The version of the Engwe M20 that I have here comes with a 13 amp hour battery. This is your standard setup for this bicycle, but you can opt for an additional 13 amp hour battery that will sit right on top of the top tube. This bike does have dual suspension. It's got a motorcycle style fork in the front with regular shocks with compression damping, and it has a shock in the rear under the seat. My one gripe so far with this bicycle is that this shock only travels about halfway through its range and it feels a little stiff. So far, this bike has been a blast to ride, and I really wish the shock would give me just a little more play. In fact, I haven't cleaned the grease off the shock because I want to show you that the shock only compresses about halfway even under the most extreme bounces. This bicycle comes equipped with a 1x up front, 7-speed Shimano tourney rear derailleur, and it also has a derailleur hanger protector on the back. That derailleur protector on the back has already come in handy with me as I've been moving this bicycle around, preventing the gears from getting knocked off. This bike claims to have a maximum speed of up to 28 miles per hour, although I really feel like you're only gonna see those numbers going downhill. For me, the bike cruises between 20 and 23 miles per hour on the flats, and it can sustain about 20 miles per hour going uphill. Shifting that Shimano tourney system, you have a thumb trigger system that works pretty good. This bike also has a throttle that is almost like a motorcycle throttle. You can use this throttle to either go full throttle or actually control it a little bit like a motorcycle. This bicycle does have mechanical disc brakes. Grabbing either of the brake levers shuts off the motor. That's a safety feature to prevent you from losing control of the bicycle while you're trying to slow it down. Both disc brakes are a 180 millimeter rotor, so front and rear disc brakes. And something I like about this package is it came with a nice set of aluminum Well-Go pedals, so you don't have to worry about replacing these anytime soon, and they're nice pedals. The double beam front headlight is probably one of the best features on this bike. It has running light, and then it has a nighttime high beam, which will give you almost daylight illumination in any night conditions. It also has a front and rear metallic fender, which seem to be pretty decent quality. I installed this front fender and it took me about 3 minutes to put it on. This bicycle has mag wheels and not spoke wheels, which will eliminate a lot of maintenance requirements that you would normally have on a wheel like this. It also has a 4-inch wide by 20-inch tall fat bicycle tire. These tires are moped rated, so they can handle whatever speed this bicycle can put out. There are 2 steps to turn this bicycle on. First, you have to turn on the battery, and I turn that battery off every time I'm not using the bicycle just to keep the battery from running down when not in use. The second step is just holding this button on top of the display, and that turns on the bicycle. Once the bicycle's on, there's a rocker on the bottom, and I'm going to push that up to 5. It does turn on every time with 0 assist, so that tells me that I have 0 pedal assist. Now I have it up to 5 pedal assist, but if I have it set on 1 through 5, it will change a little bit some of the characteristics of the throttle on the other side. The bicycle is fully charged. I just topped it off, and I have not ridden it yet today since topping it off. The bicycle came shipped in kilometers per hour, and I already converted that to miles per hour. In the owner's manual, you have instructions on all of the menu items inside of this bicycle. I'll tell you a little bit about the menu later on in the video. So with the pedal assist on 1, even with the throttle, it doesn't go that fast. If I want the full throttle response, I have to crank that assist button all the way up to 5.0. But this thing is super fun to ride. Now we're gonna take this bike for a nice test ride, see how well it performs. So right now I'm climbing straight up a hill with just throttle mode. I was gonna pedal a little bit, but there's really no point in pedaling. I'm hitting 15 going up this hill right now. I was in first gear, so I'm gonna just shift it just till I get a little bit of resistance. That way when I pedal, there's a little resistance on those pedals. So the speed limit in town here is 20, and you can hear those disc brakes. As soon as I pull them, they squeal a little bit, but they have pretty good response. Let me do a full power brake from 20. Let me hit 20 and then I'll full power brake. Going downhill also, let's see. So that back wheel locked up pretty easy, and then that front wheel didn't lock up. The brakes may not be fully seated just yet, and I didn't really want it to lock up because if it locked up, I would fall over. So this hill I just went down would be a perfect hill to test going uphill as well, because it was a pretty long hill. The way I'm driving this bicycle is I'm going to stop at all the stop signs because I'm in town. I'm not a delivery driver in a rush, so there's no reason for me to be running stop signs. I'm also just going to cruise nice and easy. Going against the wind right now. It is super windy here. Hopefully the audio comes out decent in the video. All right, hard to start. So it took about 3 to 5 seconds for the motor to kick in once I started pedaling. So not a huge deal, but in this situation where I'm in town and I want to keep momentum, once I stop, when I decide that I'm gonna go, I'm gonna hit that throttle before I start. So right now, hit that throttle. The throttle is a little quicker to respond. It took maybe about 1 or 2 seconds, and it's getting me going. There is a car behind me. I'm able to keep moving with the flow of traffic, so I'm not impeding regular traffic. Now this road is a little more wild. I'm gonna go to the right here. Stay behind this big truck. I don't want to be mixing up with him. Ready mix guy, right? Okay. Oh, red light already. So I'll bump it down to second gear. Stop at the stoplight here. No problem. It's honestly a fun bicycle to ride. Brakes no problem. It feels like, it reminds me of like when I was a kid, maybe riding somebody's dirt bike or like a pit bike or something. Hit that throttle, going no problem. I'm gonna shift some gears with my thumb, keep this thing going. I've maxed out the pedals and I'm pretty much at the limit of pedaling. I have hit several bumps that even with the suspension, I would have hoped would have given me a little more play. It's better than no rear suspension because there is some play, but it looks like it should have about 3 or 4 inches of travel, and I'm only getting 1 or 2 inches of travel. So not necessarily as good as I had hoped. I'm going about 21, slightly uphill right now, so this thing is handling this hill no problem. I'm gonna go ahead and turn here. Starting from about 10 miles per hour, a little bit of a struggle getting up this hill to the stop sign. Nothing major though. I'm gonna stop here. Cars coming. I'll go over to the next road. Full throttle, acceleration. I remember in the late 80s and the early 90s, there would be these mopeds that look like this. They were like pedal mopeds with a gas motor. You know, like a Honda 20 moped or a Honda 49 moped or something. Those things remind me of this. So like they're not super fast. You're not gonna go 40 miles on this thing around town, quick back and forth, maybe to the grocery store, maybe the gas station to pick something up. This thing is perfect for that. I'm not breaking a sweat at all. I was 5'10", I'm 5'9" now, and the seat is not adjustable. For my leg extension and the range of these pedals, I would like the seat to have been maybe about 3 or 4 inches further away, giving me a fuller extension while I'm pedaling. So if you really are thinking that you're going to use that #1 power mode with pedal assist and just barely sip on that battery as you're going down the road, this is really suited for that lower height rating of maybe about 5 feet. 5'5", maybe 5. I'm 5'9", it's a little too short for me, but the way I'm riding it now with just the throttle is honestly the best way to ride this for me. I'm not going to break a sweat. I'm just cruising. I have full control of the controls without any issues, and if I need to, I can hit this horn. I can barely hear that with my helmet on. I keep looking behind me because I'm on a road that's a 30-mile-per-hour road, and I'm only going about 25 right now. 25 is definitely doable on this bicycle on the flats. One of the cool things about this is it is technically a bicycle, so I can get up on these sidewalks and ride around town on the sidewalks. So there is a little bit of lag with the throttle. Even when you stop pedaling or you stop giving it a throttle, it still holds on for another half second or 1 second. So keep that in mind. As soon as you hit those brakes, that motor stops those. So I think that's the most important thing for safety. If you hit your brakes, the motor will stop pushing you. However, if you're pedaling, there is enough lag both to turn on the motor and to turn off the motor that it can feel a little strange. So I'm just cruising around in this parking lot. I've got the low light on. Let me see if I can face one of these abandoned shops and turn on the headlights and see how that looks. Boom, headlights. Okay, looks good. Electric bicycles seem to be common enough in society nowadays that no one's really looking at me. And I'm riding around with cameras on my bicycle, and I'm talking to myself like I'm having a conversation with myself on this bicycle. Well, I'm talking to you guys on YouTube, but nobody's even really like second looking me or anything. So I am kind of in a more urban area, and just to be safe, I'm going to stick to the road. If somebody steps out of one of these buildings and I'm going too fast, I may not have enough time to react to them. I definitely don't want to hit anybody on something like this. This bike isn't super light. A race bicycle like Tour de France, those things weigh 15 or 16 pounds. This thing weighs like 80 pounds. No matter how you slice it, 60, 70, 80 pounds is enough weight that you don't want to be pedaling this without the battery, and you don't want to be trying to stop it with someone like a kid jumping out in front of you. It does stop like a motorcycle. I'm in a 30 going 20, so I'm going to hug the side of the road. Don't want to impede the flow of traffic. I do got to pop over for these vans on my side, and then this car is just going to go ahead and cut me off, you know? And I got the bright lights on, so he just wasn't looking. But with any kind of two-wheeled or unprotected vehicle, you just got to be more of a defensive driver than an offensive driver, because people are not looking out for you. You need to look out for yourself on these roads. I'm at about 5 miles of riding today, and I just ticked over 1 battery bar. So this model does have only the 13 amp hour battery. You can get this with an additional 13 amp hour battery that sits on top of this top tube on the bicycle. And this bicycle also has some mounting holes that if you don't have that additional battery, you could put a water bottle cage on there if you wanted to. It is something that it's screaming to me to get that second battery to extend the range. If I'm going to get this bike and I'm already going to spend $1,200, I'll probably go ahead and spend the $300 for the double range of that additional 13 amp hour battery. The box when I got this was a little beat up, and I was surprised that the bicycle was not damaged inside. The reason the bicycle wasn't damaged inside was because it was so well packaged. There was basically foam around the entire bicycle, completely covered. And so I feel like they did a good job keeping this thing protected to get it to its destination. The package, I believe, was actually 80 pounds, and it wasn't too hard to put together. It took me probably 30 minutes from when I cracked the seal on the package until I put those final bolts on. I did ride around for about 2 days without the front fender on, and that was mostly just because I was being lazy and there was no rain in the forecast. I'm going to park over here for a minute, get set up, and my next thing that I'm going to do is going to be the battery rundown, maximum range test. They claim that this thing has a 45-mile range, and that range is based on probably someone lighter than me riding, probably not going full throttle. So when I do my range test, I'm going to put this thing on level 5. I'm going to use pretty much the throttle with maybe some minor pedaling, and I'm really going to ride the bike the way I would normally ride it in the street. Okay guys, I'm about to start the battery rundown test, and to reset the odometer, I'm going to hold the power button and the minus button at the same time, and that should reset the odometer. Now I'm going to hit the road and go see how far I can get on a single charge on this battery. For this battery rundown test, I have the pedal assist set to level 5, which gives me full throttle response and full pedal response. I don't plan to use the pedals unless I have to from a stop or maybe going uphill if the thing starts to struggle. I do have quite a few hills on my route, but there are also downhills associated with that. So the goal of this test is to see how this electric bike performs in real world riding. So I'm about a mile in right now. Let me go hit the road before the sun sets and see how far I can go. In case you're wondering, I also have the lights off. So just those two front dim lights are on and the tail light is off, but obviously the brake light will kick on if I hit the brakes. So I'm 10.8 miles into this ride according to this odometer, and I have 2 battery bars remaining. One thing I've noticed about the battery bars as I've been riding, when the battery starts to go between that 4th and 5th bar, it does fluctuate a little bit with voltage sag. Even though it shows that I have 2 bars on the battery right now when I'm not under load, when I'm going uphill, it starts to drop down to 1 bar and then bounce back up to that 2nd bar. That's the battery's voltage dropping under load. So I don't know exactly how much range I have left, and I'm going to run this until it dies and find out exactly how long that battery will last. One thing to keep in mind under these circumstances is a battery bar like this could be inaccurate if you're on a nice flat road. It shows that you have 3 or 4 bars left, but as soon as you hit a hill, it might drop down to 2 or 3 bars or 1 bar less than you originally anticipated having. I really only expect to get max 15 miles out of this range test, and that's typical with almost any electric bicycle you buy. The rating for this one is 45 miles, but that's for something like a 120-pound rider on flat terrain. So realistically, you want to divide that number for any electric bike that you're riding by 2 or 3, especially if you're planning to use something like this for commuting and you don't have the ability to recharge midday. You don't want that round trip to be more than about 10 to 15 miles on something with the single battery. If I had that 2nd battery, I could double that range. I still have battery power and I just hit 20.3 miles. The battery low voltage light is flashing, so I'm going to call it here at 20.3 miles so I don't do any permanent damage to the battery. That final bar lasted around 5 miles, so I had about 5 miles left when I hit that final bar. I'm pretty satisfied with the result of 20.3 miles from this battery rundown test. There's still power to give. I just don't want to do any permanent damage to the battery. All right, guys. The worst thing about riding with this awesome helmet is that it jacks up your hair for sure. The Engwe M20 has the best lighting configuration of any of the electric bicycles I have ridden. They are adjustable and bright enough to illuminate the darkest of trails. Cosmetically, I hope to clean up the wiring behind the headlights a little, and assembly out of the box is simple with minimal work required to get it dialed in. The M20 has a classic pit bike motorcycle appearance and is a blast to ride. Its beefy tires are ready to handle any terrain, and its dual mechanical disc brakes provide plenty of stopping power. If you are considering purchasing the M20, I recommend getting the 2nd battery on top to round out the bike's range. However, 20 miles on the single battery in real world riding was an excellent result. I would like to see more play in this rear suspension, but with the fat tires and this plush seat, the bike is still very comfortable on long rides. This one simply looks Overall, this is my favorite bike from Engwe's lineup. This one simply has the best look. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and if you made it this far, give me a thumbs up, and thank you for watching.